Good evening and welcome to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and we are broadcasting live from beautiful Cape May County, New Jersey via SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. My guest today is actually a returning guest. Very excited to have her back with Money Talk with Melanie, Holly K. Dunn. She's an author and sole survivor of the notorious serial killer, Angel Maturino Resendez, whose name I'm sure I just slaughtered. Also known as the railroad killer. This happened about 20 years ago, and some of you of a certain age might remember this. But we're going to talk the costs of sexual assault and sexual assault prevention. As we all know, it's been in the news quite a bit, and you know, it's a topic that I'm not sure if it's ever going to go away. I certainly, as a woman, wish it would. But that said, we'll be talking to Holly about that in a little bit. I want to welcome to the Facey chat, Jackie, John, Ken, Dwight. How are you this afternoon? Excuse me, this evening. I was just asking Holly before we got on the air. Was it is it afternoon or evening? I'm so confused, but I think it's evening because it's 5 o'clock. But welcome. Before we get to that, a bit of housekeeping. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, you can do so at Money Talk Mel, or if you'd like to like my Facebook page, which is at Money Talk with Melanie. I haven't done this in a while, but if you'd like to be on the show, if you're an entrepreneur and you're listening and you have any interest in being on a show, or you're an author or a politico or something of that nature, please do feel free to give us a call here at Money Talk with Melanie at 937-756-6639, or you can also email us at moneytalkwithmelanie.com. So I am always interested in having brand new people on the show. People actually ask me often how I get my guests, and there's like 20 different ways, but that's only one of them. That's how I get my guests, which is awesome. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what's in the news. I am sure, like many Americans, like many listeners, we are all just so distraught about what happened with that Florida pedestrian bridge. I should say the pedestrian bridge in Florida that collapsed on top of what they think is 8 cars, which could possibly be more. So far, 6 people have died. But it is, you look at the pictures and you're just like, how can that be? At least that's what I think when I see the pictures. It's just like, how is that possible? How can that possibly be? How can a structure just fall like that? And further, you know, from and probably more importantly, I mean, literally 1 minute you are here and the next minute you're just gone. You know, these people's loved ones are just gone. And, you know, they're talking about, you know, removing the bodies with dignity and this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking, how is it, when you look at what's there, how is there even going to be anything to remove? I don't, it's just so, it's unsettling, particularly since, like, I feel like it's something that we all do every day, right? I want to welcome to the chat Tamara and Chris Gaines and Debbie and Chuck. Hi, Michael, Liz, hello, welcome. But looking at those pictures, it's just devastating, and I'm praying for the families, because I cannot imagine that. I mean, for that to be that. And, you know, as someone who's a Christian, that is really hard to wrap your head around the why. You know, but I know what I know to be true. About God and about Christ, and I know what I know to be true, but an explanation for that I do not have, and it's just I'm heartbroken for the families. I just cannot imagine. And again, you know, it's something that we all do every single day. We're driving, and, you know, sitting in a light or under an underpass, and don't think anything of it. But my guess is it's an engineering mistake. That apparently they were stress testing the bridge. Now, what crosses my mind is, well, if you were doing a stress test, didn't occur to anybody that what would happen if they would fail? They failed the test? Then what? I don't know. The only thing that comes to my mind is it has to be human error, which is just it's just hard to imagine. Like I'm thinking about, okay, engineers, what engineers do, and they're doing calculations. I'm like, what, did someone forget to carry a one and like not know how much they needed of one thing and not enough of the, like what the heck happened? Anyway, I just a terrible, terrible tragedy, really, just a terrible tragedy. In the more money aspect of the news, Google, oh goodness gracious, Google says they're going to spend $270,000 to close a wage gap for their workers. Apparently, they reviewed 89% of its workforce and found that there were statistically significant pay differences for 228 employees. Now, I listen, I've talked about this before. I don't know if I don't recall if the pay gaps were supposed to be racial or gender. I believe it was gender with Google, but I can think of like a million reasons why men and women's salaries would be different. And maybe it's just because I've never worked at a place that didn't have a pay scale. So that's the other thing. I'm like, who's doing this? Who's saying like, okay, females get paid this and males get that? Like usually people don't. HR departments generally have a pay scale. Like this is the pay scale. This is what you get for this job. Unless, somebody knows something different that it works differently. Any place that I've ever worked, they had a standard pay scale. And it wasn't like a male female pay scale. But when you consider how many years experience a woman how much less years experience a woman might have over a man, because of childbearing, it's just the way things are set up, and child rearing, frankly, I could see how there could be a significant pay gap between men and women. That's not necessarily sexist. That to me, that's just like kind of logic, but I could be wrong. But that's just my sense of thing. Like I say to people about the whole racism thing, like everything is not a thing just because it looks like a thing. Like it may look like a thing, but it don't necessarily mean it's a thing. You got to look a little deeper. A lot of times when people are drawing these conclusions, it's a fallacy in reasoning. Like, well, the guy who robbed the bank had a red shirt, so all people with red shirts rob banks. Like, no, that is not the way logic really works. So just have to be careful about those things and drawing inferences from certain information that you probably shouldn't. Also, this is interesting. Home prices saw their biggest gain in 4 years in February. So shout out to my homegirls who are real estate agents. Actually, my girlfriend Suzanne Cafiro listens to my podcast often. She's one of my BFFs and a stellar real estate agent. Kathy Heron, shout out to her. They are locals, but they are stellar real estate agents. But if you're looking to buy some properties in the Jersey area for your second home, give those ladies a call. Look them up, give them a call if you want to know, you want their cards or their information. Send it to me. I'll hook you guys up. But they're both fantastic. Anywho, so home prices are up. So good for them. Dinner's on them next time we go out. So I'm happy for my real estate people out there. Finally, Nike's #2 executive is resigning. His name is Trevor Edwards. First of all, Nike still making sneakers? I didn't even know that. I don't really wear sneakers. That's probably part of the reason. But he was going to be like the next in line to be the president of the company. Apparently, he had some kind of incident or incidents with inappropriate workplace behavior. And see, this is part of the problem. And it's unnamed. Hey, Susan Tui and Charlie and Jim, welcome. And Carlos, if I missed you, this is the problem. Inappropriate is in the eye of the beholder a lot of times. That's the only thing that makes me nervous. As a woman, you like to see that stuff handled, right? But as someone who has nephews and a brother and men in my life that I care about, it freaks me out a little bit. Like what exactly? I feel like the truth is always somewhere in the middle. But another CEO bites the dust. I guess is the message there about Nike. Okay, we're going to go to a break real quick. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. Our guest today is Holly K. Dunn. She's the author of Soul Survivor. We're going to talk to her about the costs of sexual abuse and sexual abuse assault prevention. We'll be back in a few minutes.
For every action, evil and legion. So I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, for several decades, there has been a concerted effort to literally destroy masculinity in America. The decades-long mental and spiritual beatdown of American boys and men has now resulted in a catastrophic tidal wave of human destruction. The so-called male domination of society is at best an outright lie that is perpetrated by leftists in all segments of society. Many educators try to convince parents to drug their boys in elementary school so that they won't act like little boys. Boys are more often not encouraged to be all they can be by their families, especially in urban community settings, while those same boys often witness their sisters getting heaped with praise and encouraged to be themselves, and that everyone should accept them no matter how they act. If not, they're considered abusive to females. People may wonder why 77% of all suicides are men and boys, why over 90% of all American inmates are men. For all you feminazis who enjoy your high place above men while pretending to be victims of men, you are part of the effort to weaken our republic from within. If male recovery does not happen soon, your high place could soon tumble. I'm Ron Edwards, sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
Ron Edwards, the new voice of America.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. And I'm actually reminded, if you're looking for places at the Jersey Shore, South Jersey, not LBI, not all the other places like North. I'm in like the real South Jersey. Okay. Kate May. My girlfriend Sylvia Lockwood as well. And I only remember because she called me during the break, and not because of that, because she calls me during the break. She calls me while I'm on the air sometimes, and I go, "Sugar, I'm on the air." She's like, why do I always call it? But I think God was reminding me to give her a shout out as well. That's how I'm going to take it. But anyway, without further ado, I want to introduce to you guys. Actually, I'm not introducing. She's returning. For those of you new to Money Talk with Melanie, Holly K. Dunn is the author of a book called Soul Survivor. She is the sole survivor of the railroad killer. She's going to tell us more about that in a minute, but she's going to talk to us today about the cost of sexual assault and sexual assault prevention. I'm very privileged to have her on the show. Very excited to have her on the show. And without further ado, Holly Dunn, how are you, darling?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much, Melanie, for having me again.
Oh, I'm super excited. You are quite welcome. So if you don't mind, can you give the audience a bio, a little bit of a bio, a little bit of your background behind what we're going to discuss today?
Sure. So I guess I had an incident happen back when I was in college. I was 20 years old, and I was attacked along with my boyfriend, and I was raped, beaten, stabbed, and almost killed, and my boyfriend was killed. And truly that event in my life has become, I guess, my life's passion today. I was, it was a terrible tragedy. It was something horrible that occurred, but I have been able to find the good that could come from something so terrible, and to live my life today, wanting to help others and wanting to help victims of rape, victims of violence. I want to be an advocate for them and a voice for for them. I want to do what I can to help whomever who will listen and that I can help. So I guess that's kind of my background. It's I've been able to turn this terrible tragedy into something good, and I feel very blessed to have done that.
And we're blessed that you're able to do that. I mean, when you think about the whys and what you're doing, right? How would you be able to do that without having had that experience? I don't know. You know, I
believe that it, that's what I say. I believe that I would never want this to happen to anyone. I would never want anything like this to happen to anyone. But my life is now not defined by it, but my life is enhanced by this terrible thing that happened. And I'm able to help others and help myself and live this happy, great life. And I would never choose it, but I'm living thankful for the second chance at life that I have.
Amen. Amen. And I'm so grateful that that's what you chose to do. And I'm sure many of the people that you've helped are grateful as well. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the ways in which you're doing that in a few minutes. But before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit with the audience about the costs monetarily. This is Money Talk with Melanie. I'm sure I was wondering if some people were like, why is she having this personal? Like trying to connect the dots between a show about finance and money and, the book Soul Survivor and your experience, of course. But the fact of the matter is that everything is attached to money. The government spends a great deal of money as far as advocates for sex crime victims. The FBI receives a bunch of funding for specialists and field offices in this area. There's a crime victims fund. There's a federal victim notification system that receives like $5 million a year. And I'm not even sure that people realize that that's the case. So I wanted to talk a bit about that. And then, of course, there's a lot that's done on the philanthropic, from a philanthropic perspective. And of course, when we talk about costs, it's not just, financial costs. There are other costs. I mean, for every Holly there is out there, there are 300,000 women a year who are victims of rape. Some 90% don't get reported. It's a disgrace. And and quite frankly, what I find stunning, and I'm not trying to throw the male of the species under the bus. Ron Edwards is going to get me, right? After his notebook. But I'm not trying to throw the male of the species under the bus, but it seems to me that with numbers that high, it's kind of strange that like no men know any other men who have done or do that. Like, I just find that a bit perplexing. I don't know about you, Holly. But
no, I do too. That's it. And I think that it's still not talked about today, even though it is talked about more. It's still not talked about, and that's especially that side of it. And so it's probably they don't want to know, and so they don't ask. That's not a question that probably gets ever asked.
I'm sure. And I was talking to someone about it the other day, and I hadn't looked up the stats in, oh my gosh, probably 20 years. And I was stunned to see that the stats were what they were, that many go unreported. And you could understand why. It's he said, she said situation most of the time. Nobody does that out in the open. And frankly, I think there's a message that, women sent false signals. And that's how that ends up happening. So a lot of women don't report it. But it's a
right,
big
they
problem.
Feel a lot of shame and guilt. That's the shame and the guilt are keep them from it. And then also just the court system. I mean, going through the court system and actually getting justice is a very scary thing. And I mean, it's a scary thing to sit in a courtroom and to testify, and that's all very intimidating. That keeps people from reporting. I think that just that thought.
For sure. And then, of course, the defense attorney is going to try to turn you into some harlot. Mm-hmm. So, how it's a very difficult thing. And this is why what Holly does is so important. It's just so important. Doug in the chat says, but those of us who aren't criminal dogs are unfortunately lumped in alpha males. I don't disagree. And I think that's what Ron Edwards' notebook was really about earlier. I mean, I tease him about, this is like the first one I didn't really care for. I really adore Ron Edwards, but I wasn't not a huge fan of this last one. But I get it. He and I actually talked about that notebook extensively the other night. But Doug said, like Hillary. I agree. Hillary kind of definitely did that. Lumps all males into one category, kind of, so to speak.
She also lumps females into one category.
Right? How about it? We're all just listening to our husbands. Stop that. That is so offensive. But we're not supposed to talk about that, but you're so right. That is super. I can't with her, for real. But no, Doug is absolutely right about that. And I think that's where part of the problem lies, with identifying this and getting like the word out. Like, we have to kind of keep speaking up. If we don't, what prompted me to look up the stats was I saw an article that said 2 cops, 25 years in the force, got busted for sexually assaulting these women. Apparently they had been doing it for a long time. And my question was, how in the world did they think they could get away with that? And then I looked up the stats of unreported sexual assaults, and I was like, well, that's how. Highly unlikely it wasn't going to get reported. And they're cops, so I'm sure they know that. But that we got to do something. And frankly, the men, you guys got to help out. You got to help us. I don't know specifically what it is that leads a man to do that, but you guys got to know. Holly, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the guys have to take some initiative, and I think you can't, but you're right, you cannot lump them all together. It's hard not to, because it's like, it's hard to take everyone into consideration. So, I mean, I can understand sometimes why they do get lumped together, but I don't know what the answer is.
For real. I looked, I said 300,000 a year, and that's just women over 12. That was just women 12 and over. That didn't even include, under 12 molestation and pedophilia, right, and all that.
No kids. Right.
Nope, it didn't even include the kids. And I'm thinking 300,000 a year. And we were actually talking about it on Facebook. And I said to the guy, one of the guys I was talking to on Facebook, I said, I will bet you there's not one woman that either has been through something in that area or knows a woman who has. And the guy was like, I know 2 women who have. And I was like, exactly. I said, but yet it seems to me that no man knows any other man that's ever done that. Seems weird. seems like those statistics are not matching up to me. Because someone's doing it.
I would agree.
Yeah, I would totally agree. So let's talk about prevention of sexual assault.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at some numbers, and it was amazing to me that there's some numbers out there that each rape that occurs in the United States costs over $100,000, and that's, they're taking a lot of things into consideration. They're taking into consideration when it does go through the justice system, or even or just the aftermath, because you have to take so much into consideration, because it's not just how much are we spending on the victim through the justice system and lawyers and all that. How much does all that cost? But then the aftermath. How much does the aftermath cost? And the therapy that you might need, or and you might need it for the rest of your life. That's the thing, is it doesn't end. It's not, you don't graduate from therapy. I'm still healing. I still need therapy. I still need help. It doesn't end. When you have something traumatic like this happen, when rape occurs, never goes away. So the cost of it is never going to go away. We're gonna, we have to help that person for the rest of their life, because it's gonna affect you in different ways throughout your life, but it's gonna affect you for the rest of your life.
Indeed. And I'm thinking in terms of costs, work costs, time out sick for depression and anxiety and everything else. It's costing companies, because listen, all those unreported rapes, people, you don't just bounce out of bed the next day and go to work. That's not how it works. So I'm sure that there's a considerable amount of time off that's costing businesses as well.
And I feel like this kind of funding that's provided, to the organizations that help victims, when funding is provided, that it's some of the first funding to be cut, only because it seems like the easy thing to do when cuts have to happen. Cut that funding, and so but that's the scary part, is that we can't go without it. Like, it's going to snowball and get even bigger if we don't deal with things when it first comes about, if we don't spend the money for prevention, if we don't spend the money for in the beginnings to even prevent these crimes from happening, then it's going to snowball, and it's just going to grow. The money will grow bigger and bigger, how much it's going to cost.
What are ways the government can spend in prevention? I'm curious about your thoughts on that. Like, what types of things can they put in place?
Well, I mean, I deal not only with adults that have been through sexual violence, but kids as well. And there's a push for programs now in our schools for kids. That's a program that teaches kids, about sexual predators and the lures that they use and how to avoid them. That can be taught in our schools, and there's a cost to that. Right now, locally where I am, and an organization that I helped co-found helps to, give those classes for free at our schools right now. But we have to seek the money to have those classes happen. But that's how we're working to prevent the child sex crimes from happening. And I think in the adult world, if it's programs on, for men or for anyone really, on just, I think that it goes back to kind of a level of, not only being a good person, but like there's aspects of it that are, if you take a anger management kind of class, is that going to help to prevent something from occurring that might be a sexual assault in the future? I don't know a whole lot about the psyche. I've never really studied the psyche and what a sexual assault person that commits a sexual assault, what do we need to fix? How do we need to fix their mind so that it doesn't happen?
Right.
That's just, I'm so much on the victim side that I think that I haven't really looked at that side of it to know how are we going to prevent these. I know that we can teach women how to, take their personal safety and make that important, but it shouldn't just be on us. So
I agree.
I don't know what's the right thing to teach men, at what opportunity to teach them.
I agree.
But I'm sure that those programs are probably in place. I'm sure some of them are, and that it's happening. I don't know of it locally where it's happening here.
I mean, it seems to like do you really need a class to tell someone not to rape someone? I don't understand why you would need that. But on a, you know what I mean? It's like, it is an insane thought, but it's so, I don't want to use the word prevalent because that sounds a little alarmist, but it happens way more often. 300,000 a year, women over 12? That's 600,000 in 2 years. That's 800.
Right.
That's 800,000 during Trump's presidency. No, I'm sorry. No, three times 4. That's ridiculous.
Over 1,000.
That's ridiculous. And so, and you're right. We're always teaching women you know, you got to know how to defend yourself. You have to know how to avoid certain situations. You have to, you know, all these things that women have to be nervous about. And yes, Doug Pauls, it's mathematically appalling. And then and most of the ones that occur don't get reported. And so, and I think this is the part that I kind of resent, is like what you said, like we're teaching women we're teaching women ways to prevent rape when we're not the rapists. And that to me seems a little backward. Shouldn't we be somehow figuring out what leads men to rape? We know it's about power, not about sex. We know those things. But should we be spending some money figuring out why some men are so rapey? I just feel like we should. I know rapey's not. I use that terminology to kind of lighten up a very heavy subject, but I mean, really, I don't understand.
Well, we have to lighten it up because and I feel like that's a gift that I have, is lightening it up, because we almost would cry if we couldn't lighten it up some, because it is so heavy to think about, and the magnitude of it is just overwhelmingly, and it's scary. Like it's scary to think about.
It is. And I've been asking some of my man friends, but I haven't been, I'm going to keep it real with you. I haven't been nice about it. It's not a nice subject. So when I talk about it on Facebook or something, particularly if you're conservative, conservatives and Christians don't like complaining. And it seems like complaining, and it seems like a very liberal thing that you're doing to talk about sexual assault being a problem. Well, no, it's a legitimate problem. Specifically, if you're a victim, it's an issue. So, I wish that more men were counseling more men about that type of thing. We're making it crystal clear from the time boys are little. And I don't know that this is the answer, but somebody's missing a message somewhere. And maybe it's that they hate their mother.
That sounds like a good idea to me. I wish that was a conversation that occurred more with men. That that you knew if someone was not abiding by what should be the man code of, you don't do that, And that's just, I don't know how guys that rape get, like, they're still like part of society. They're fine with their friends. They're fine. I just cannot imagine that they're just living their life like everything's fine. Well, and nobody knows that this has even happened.
70% of my audience is male. There are tons of men in the Facey chat. If you guys have any comments, please comment. I want to know. I'm sure Holly similarly would like information, but besides telling us how to defend ourselves against all these big scary men that are out here, because not all of you are like that, but as a result of the messaging, in my opinion, women are just on the defense, and there's kind of no counsel on the other side. Maybe I'm wrong about that. And men, again, if you guys have a comment about that, I'd love to hear it. I'd be very, very interested. But that to me as a woman is the difficult part, where you're like, well, the way to prevent rape is for you to do this and for you to do that. No, the way to prevent rape is for you to stop raping. Like, that would be
true.
Oh, well, maybe you shouldn't have been in that dark alley. No, maybe you should be less rapey. I have a right to be in a dark alley if I want.
Right.
I just find it.
And that's the scary part too, is that it's not happening in dark alleys. It's not a stranger, which happened to me. I understand that.
True.
That's the least amount of rapes that are occurring. It's an acquaintance. It's someone you know. It's someone you trust. It's somebody you love. It's that's who it's possibly happening through. Like it's not. It is your mainstream guys. It's not the stranger danger. It is your mainstream fraternity brother, friend. It's that mainstream guy. It's not. That's what. It's not like a stranger. It's someone you know.
You are so
somebody's
right.
got to know them.
You are so right. Doug Poss, who's a veteran, said in the military back in the dark ages, we quote unquote took care of it. I think listen.
I like that.
Oh, me too. Me too. That's how I used to be back in the day. I have family members that are like that. Old school. Something happens to one of the women in the family, the men go handle it. And I have zero issue with that. Not one. We're up against the break. When we come back, I want to talk about all the things that you're involved in, Holly's House. I want you to talk about the book as well when we get on the other side of the break. Are you good with that?
I'd love that.
Awesome. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. My guest today is Holly K. Dunn. She's an author and the sole survivor of The Railroad Killer. She's talking to us today about sexual assault and sexual assault prevention. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Who likes paying taxes? Nobody. That's why Eva Rosenberg from TaxMama.com wants you to pay less of them. Read Small Business Taxes Made Easy and learn how legally hiring your spouse and children can slash your taxes. Learn how to set up a business plan that minimizes taxes, the benefits of setting up an exit plan, how to avoid getting audited, and how to legally increase your deductible expenses with better record-keeping techniques. Don't let the IRS squeeze you out of every penny. Visit TaxMama.com. Click on Ask a Tax Question to get free answers to your tax and business questions. That's TaxMama.com.
My name is David Barnett, and I've been helping people buy and sell small and medium-sized businesses since 2008. So far this year, I've gone on 5 vacations. It's because I've got my own business. When you get tired of being managed by someone else and you decide that business ownership is right for you without the risk of starting your own unproven enterprise, then come over to businessbuyeradvantage.com. There are over 100 YouTube videos on buying and selling businesses that you can watch for free. That's businessbuyeradvantage.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network. Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcast. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch River Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe right here on shrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Hey guys, this is Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Check us out every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. And this is Sackhead Clint, is the best looking one of the bunch. It's my duty to remind you to check us out on our YouTube channel.
And don't forget to check us out on the SHR Media Facebook page. The best looking one? Really? You gonna go there?
No, every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, right here on the SHR
Choice.
Media
I have the award
Network.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR SHR Media.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. My guest today is the one and only Holly K. Dunn. She's an author and the sole survivor of a serial killer, the Railroad Killer. And we're talking to her today about the cost of sexual assault and sexual assault prevention. I know it's not the most cheery thing to talk about on a Friday afternoon, but very, very necessary. And we are certainly blessed to have her on the show today. And by the way, Holly, Doug in the chat says, Holly, thank you for discussing this. Glad you survived.
Oh, thank you.
Me too. Doug is a big fan of the show. Me too, girl. Me too. So let's talk a bit about the positive ways you have, the positive things you've done as a result of this, how you're helping people.
Well, I was able to write my book, which has been, the greatest thing that I feel just amazingly blessed that I've been able to get my book out. I seeked out in my healing a lot of books by survivors. I wanted to know that I wasn't going crazy. I wanted to know that I was normal, that other people felt the same way I did, that other people had gone through something like I had gone through. Everybody's story is different, but we all kind of have some of the same feelings in our healing and in our lives. So I seeked out every book I could find by survivors, and that's what I hope my book does, is that it gets into survivors' hands when they need it, and that they can maybe move along in their healing or get some inspiration or just even feel like they're normal, that they're not going crazy, that, they can get through what they're going through. And so, that's been probably something that I'm most proud of. I'm also super proud of the organization I was able to help co-found in Evansville, Indiana, my hometown. It's called Holly's House, and it's named after me. I am the co-founder and spokesperson, but it is an advocacy center. So it is a non-residential location, so it's not a shelter or any kind of residence, even though the house word kind of says otherwise, but that's just what it was named. But it provides a safe reporting location for victims of intimate crimes. And then we do have that program, like I was talking about, to prevent crimes from happening. And a lot of our victims that come through Holly's House are child victims, but we also serve victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, adult victims. So that has been, something that opened actually 10 years ago in 2008. That I feel like I've just like every 10 years I'm doing something. So maybe 10 years from now there's going to be something else that I get to be a part of. It's like Holly's House was 10 years ago. The book was last year. So every 10 years I'm trying to maybe do something to big in my life.
I like that. Now, let me ask you: has the book been a part of your healing, and do you find that, did you find that in your research that writing or finding some outlet was helpful in your healing process?
Well, what I found for me was that talking about what happened was healing for me. So just getting the story outside of yourself. Now, I'm not an author. I had a co-author that helped me write this book. So she interviewed me because, again, I said I'm a talker. So I can talk a lot, but I just can't necessarily write the eloquent words. So, but you just have to get it outside of yourself. So whether you're writing it, whether you're talking about it, whether you're singing about it, whether you're doing art about what has happened to you, if you get it outside of you, it helps it to lose its control over you, and it helps to move your healing along, and it just doesn't have power over you anymore like it used to. And so you can get further in your healing once you can start to talk about it. And it doesn't have to be you talk about it to the masses. You don't have to go out and do public speaking like I do. You don't have to, get on Facebook and do a Facebook Live, about your story. It could be to one person. Tell your story to one person, or write it down and let a friend read it. You just want someone that believes you, that listens to you, that that's your support system, and that support system can't just be one person. I mean, it might be a counselor, it might be a therapist, or it might be a friend or a loved one, or it might be a clergy member. It can be so many different people, but you just need that one person that can be your support system.
For sure. And that makes a lot of sense. Internalizing any of that kind of stuff, I would imagine could just do almost more damage than the act itself.
Well, it can't. I mean, and especially when something occurs and you live sort of in that victim mentality, I mean, it can just so greatly affect your life that you can't work, you can't live, you basically can't get out of bed, you cannot find a reason to live your life. And that's what sexual assault can do to people, that they become so depressed and so upset and so unable to heal from what has happened, that they don't live their life. And that's what I don't want to happen. I consider living your life if you just wake up, you're breathing, you get out of bed, you're happy throughout the day. Now, you're still going to feel other emotions. You're going to cry, you're going to be unhappy, you're going to have all the emotions. But if you're able to get out of bed every day, get dressed, and be happy, do something that day that makes you happy, then you're being successful in life.
For
it
sure.
doesn't have to be this big, great life. It can be, very minimal, but that is healing. I believe that if you can wake up, get dressed, breathe some breaths, and feel happy at least once throughout the day, then you're on a path to healing.
I agree. And I noticed that you mentioned, and I don't want to gloss over this, that what Holly House does is provides safe reporting. And, we mentioned earlier that a lot of these things don't get reported. And we didn't even talk about the child aspect. We were just talking about adult, quote unquote, adults over 12. But you talked about, why is safe report an area for safe reporting even necessary? Why is that?
Well, locally here, victims used to go to the police station to report sexual assault. So they would go into the lobby where they might see their friends who were going through the building to pay their water bill, or were coming in to report, get a police report of some kind. And, what are you going to say to your friend when you see them in the lobby of the police office, of the police station, and they ask you why you're there, and you're there to report a rape? Are you going to say, "Oh, I was raped yesterday, I'm here to report it"? Or are you going to lie and then feel bad about lying about it? And then they were also interviewed in rooms that were the size of a closet, that were the interrogation rooms. The purpose of them was they were painted drab, they were uncomfortable chairs, because they want perpetrators in uncomfortable chairs, so they want to get out of there, so that they want that to be uncomfortable for them, and that it's not conducive for victims. But that's where they were interviewing. You could even have run into your perpetrator because they were interviewing them at the same time. So you might run into your perpetrator while you're there. And so what was happening here locally was that we weren't supporting the victim in that reporting process. So, even less crimes were being reported because they didn't want to go through all that. So the safe reporting location is so important because we want victims to feel like they are safe, that they can come. They're not going to run into their perpetrator. They're going to feel comfortable. They're going to feel comfortable because you got to talk about, I do a little exercise with people where I say, okay, you're going to talk about your last sexual experience to the person right next to you, and go into as much detail as you can. Talk about it as, give me as much detail. Tell me colors, sounds, smells, everything.
Exactly.
And then you guys do it back and forth. And that's what we're asking victims to do. We're asking them to talk about a terrible situation. You're even going to be talking about a pleasant situation. This is going to be something terrible, but they need to give us every single detail. Why wouldn't you do that in a location where they feel comfortable, and that they still have to talk about this terrible thing?
Exactly. Exactly.
Obviously, I'm a little bit passionate about it.
A little bit. And listen, that was part of why I asked you the question, because like I said, you mentioned it in another answer, but I didn't want to gloss over the importance of that. I wanted to make sure that I didn't gloss over that. So tell us, why should we purchase the book? What are we going to find in the book that's valuable? Why should we go out and get it and read it?
Well, I know that the book is not, it's a hard book to read. It does go into a lot of detail, but it's telling you my life, and that's, so you're going through it with me. And that's what I wanted the book to do, is I wanted people to feel how I felt. And I think that it does that. So it's not an easy read, and I'll admit that. But what the book does in the second half of the book, after the attack and describing all that, is it talks about the good. So the book is a book of inspiration. It's a book of, you can get through anything. Bad things happen, that life can happen after it does. That you can live a happy life after something terrible happens. And I feel like that's what my book is, one of inspiration and motivation. It's one that, actually is a happy book. It's got such a happy ending. It's hard to read the tragedy and what happened, but then it's like, oh my gosh, it's this happy story. So that's what I think. I want survivors to get the book, but I think anyone can feel inspiration from the book, because it does, talk about how my life is so wonderful now. And, I am a mother of two beautiful boys, and I have an amazing husband, and I live this life that I am so blessed to have. And that's exactly what my book tells you, that, that it goes through my life literally from even a little bit of my childhood, the attack, to right now today, how my life is today. Excellent.
An excellent read. I'll admit the tough parts I could not really deal with. So I was like, I got it, Holly. I'm going to move on to the happy stuff. But no, just really an excellent read. So before we go, tell us how we can contact you. A lot of radio hosts listen to my show. If they want to get you to speak somewhere or anything like that, how can we contact you?
Sure, I would love that. So I'm available on most social media sites, definitely Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as Holly K. Dunn. That's Holly, the letter K, Dunn. So that's, just Holly K. Dunn on any of those sites. My website is also hollykdunn.com. And the book is available on Amazon. It's available at Barnes & Noble. It's available also on my site, soulsurvivorbook.com. And so, all those ways you can get a hold of me. There's many, many ways to get a hold of me. And those are probably the easiest ways right there.
Excellent. And before we go, the last minute, should we give a shout out to our mutual homegirl, Eden Gordon Hill?
Yes, Eden, we love you. Thank you for all you do for us. We love you.
Yes, darling, we absolutely adore you. So that'll be a nice surprise for her when she listens to this podcast. We adore you. Yeah, it is the truth. She totally rocks. She's a fantastic lady. We love her. Okay. Well, I am so happy, and I appreciate you being on the show today, Holly. I'm so happy about the success of the book, and you were just such an encouragement and an example for,
thank you.
So unfortunately, so many women who have been through similar experiences. So please keep up the good work, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. So wonderful to chat again. So thank you. Absolutely.
I'm sure we'll be in touch soon. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. Our guest today was Holly K. Dunn, author of the book Soul Survivor. You can get it on Amazon. Make sure you check it out. She's a soul survivor of the railroad killer. And she talked to us today about sexual assault prevention. And for that, we are really grateful. I want to thank SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio, all of you listeners out there, and everyone in the Facey chat. You guys totally rock. Thanks for hanging out with Holly and myself this afternoon. Remember, all of this is very important because after all, it's your money. Have a great weekend.